Hello YouTube, this is You Can Do It Dave. In my first video, we made up this nice pattern for our round window, and we picked out our wood to be able to cover the round sections of window. Okay, you have your pattern, you have your wood picked out, you have your finger jointing router bit, so let's make a window. So now the first thing we need to do, let's start with number 1. These are each numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did a little test with the finger jointing router bit, and I did find out that to line up the lines, I have to add 7 millimeters to the wood. So now it's 7 millimeters on this finger jointing router bit right here. If you take your calipers, there's a little steel rod that comes out the end. You put your calipers in the finger joint and you close them, and that will give you the measurement of your groove. Okay, so there is 7 millimeters for that finger joint. Now, the first set of lines I added 7 millimeters on each side. You don't do that. Since you only have one finger joint, it's 3.5 millimeters on each board. So that's why I have the 2 separate lines. Okay, so one joint, 3.5 millimeters. We'll try and put this thing together and see what happens. Okay, so we have to line up where this joins and where that joins. So that line there and that line there. That line there, and that line there. And you take your straight edge, and you line them up. So you take the piece you just cut, and it should line up just nicely. Now the good thing about this is the cut you just made should be able to just pop right on there. And you continue on. Here. Now you double check each piece as you go, right on the lines, and then you move on to the next piece. Good. Now flip it over and keep going. Now I'm sure there's people out there who are saying, oh well, you don't need to do all this, Dave, you can figure out the geometry of a circle and divide it by 8 and then multiply by 15. And no, I'm not a math person. Okay, I will work within my limitations. So I am not going to try and learn grade 15 math or grade 12 math. I'm just going to build a damn window. Okay? You can do it. Figure out a way that you're comfortable with and just do it. Okay. Before I get too far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally number 8. So now, other than this first piece where it's a backward angle, I did not have to change the saw blade. I did not have to change the angle of the cut, which is a good sign because that means it's all the same. It's either a good sign or a bad sign. So now we have our pieces together. Number 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And they are all the same size. Good. Now we get busy with the router. Now, of course, you can set up your shop any way you want. You'll notice I am not using any guards on this table saw. I'm not using any special guards on the router. Do this at your own risk. Okay, they're power tools. They can take off your fingers very easily or make you a jointed finger. So be very careful with this stuff. That's my safety message for the day. So when you're doing your finger jointing router bit, you get it all set up, you get it working, everything's fine. Always keep a spare piece of wood. Okay, after monkeying around with this thing for far longer than I wanted to, I always had this spare piece of wood that I know is the right setting. Okay, it's good to have this so when you're lining everything up and making it fit, you've got something to go back on. Put the router in, you take your spare piece that you lock it in. And since you have used that piece, it should work. Let's give it a try and find out. Okay, so there you go. Perfectly flat, good fit, because I used my original piece to line it up with. So we'll set that aside. Test piece. set that aside. So now that we've know that it works, we can go ahead and start doing these. Okay, so when you're using a finger jointing router bit, you run it through this way and you run it through this way. One of these boards has to flip over to match. Okay, so you have to figure out, before you cut your good pieces, you have to figure out how you're going to make them match at the angle without wasting wood. So what I've come up with is, you have your pieces of wood all in a nice little stack. Okay, you take the top piece, you set it down. You take the next piece, you flip it over. You router it, flip it back, it joins. Okay, you move on. You take your next piece, you router it, you flip the next one. That way you're always... So let's give that a try and see what happens. So you have that board there, that board there, and that board there. Once you're reasonably sure that you have all your pieces routed properly, you can go ahead and try to line them up and see how they fit. This is the only frame that I'm going to be doing with 1x4 clear pine. And the reason that is because the tolerances are just too tight. Okay, I'm going to try and glue this together and we'll see how it works. But to give you an example, it's just barely covering these lines. Okay, with a 1x6, which I've already done, it's a little thicker, but you can go in a little bit and not have to worry about missing the lines. So now once you have all your pieces cut and routed, it's time to start gluing them together. Okay. Again, starting with number 1. Now, there are short bristled brushes that you can get in the plumbing section in the hardware store that are meant for putting flux on water pipes. So short little stiff bristles. I have a bag of them somewhere, but I cannot for the life of me find them. So I'm just going to take a regular paintbrush and just dab the glue into the spaces. Make sure you cover all the spaces. And then go on to the next one. Oh, and before you get too far, you have to do both sides of the first one. When you work your way around to the other side, you won't be able to put glue on it because it will be part of the window frame. Okay. One. Number 2. Now when you're gluing this, don't worry about any excess that might squeeze out. You got to remember that this whole window is going to be routed 2 or 3 times again to make it round. So any little flakes off the corners or out the inside doesn't matter. It's not going to be there when we're done. Okay. Make sure that it covers the lines. And then squish them together. Make sure you're within your pattern all the way around. Now the reason I'm saying you got to be within the pattern on the outside is because by the time you get back to here, the glue is already starting to set up and it'd be really hard to move, really hard to adjust. Squish. Okay, so now we go on to clamping. Okay, so once you get it all glued up together, if there are any little gaps in here, I'm just going to fill it in with the same sawdust mixed with glue, just to fill it in. I can understand a lot of people do not want to do these kinds of projects because, oh well, there's a gap, or this doesn't look right, or oh, I give up. No, you can do it. Do not expect legacy quality items when you first do a project. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, my 5th window or my 6th window is going to look a hell of a lot better than this because I've had the practice. Don't get discouraged because, oh well, there's a gap there and there's a gap there. This is your first window. Give yourself a break. Okay? So, you take your fancy little clamp here. This is a picture framing clamp. It comes with 4 corners, or 3 other corners. But I take them off and just use it like that. Loosen off the clamps, pull it tight. Put it around your window. Again, I'm not too worried about the glue smearing around. Just trying to get the darn thing done so that it looks okay. Clamp it up, tighten it up. So now you'll have to tighten this up 2 or 3 times. And make sure that all the pieces are lined up properly. Make sure the straps are on straight, or they'll pop off. Just like that. Okay, then you tighten her down. Now usually what I do is I tighten it down 2 or 3 times. Okay, so I've reached the limit, so we'll back it off. Take off the strap. Loosen it down as much as it'll go. And then pull the strap tight again. Make sure you center it on the corner. Okay, pull it as tight as you can. And then screw it tight again. Keep an eye on everything. See, there is a gap there. Okay, so we will let that dry. Yeah, so there's one gap there, a little bit of gap there. I might not be able to use this because if I line it up with my safety, I still have my safety pattern, okay? If I line it up with my safety pattern, there and there, there and there, and then go around the outside, well, I am within the pencil lines, which is good. Okay, so this, to give you an idea, this here is $20 worth of wood. Okay, while this here, so the 1x4 is $20. The 1x6 here is $30. And I believe I have a little piece left over. And that's $30. And again, I still have a few little gaps, but as I sand it down and finish it and work on it, I can patch them up and get it looking nice. So I'm not going to let a couple little gaps stop me. Okay? I know this is not going to be perfect, but it's my very first window. I am learning as I go. Okay? So, in my next video, we will router down both of these. We'll make them round on the inside. We'll put in an inset for the glass to sit in, and we'll router out the outside. This is You Can Do It, Dave, and we'll see you later.